So you know that moment where your home lab is finally organized, and I say that with big air quotes, at least in my case. Except you've got 50 bookmarks to various other web GUIs, and so that's the exact problem that Homepage, what we're covering today, solves. It's a self-hosted dashboard that becomes your command center. It links service statuses, useful widgets, all in one place, and a whole slew of other things. Now, before we start, about 90% of you aren't subscribed, so if you want to stay up to date with everything 45 Home Lab, hit that subscribe and that notification bell. Howdy folks, Zach Perry back here with 45 Home Lab, and today we are talking about Homepage, a modern, fast, self-hosted start page that's built for exactly the kind of organized chaos that we all end up running with in a real home lab. And this will be a part 1 of 2. Today we're going to break down, what Homepage actually is, the home lab problem that it solves, and why it gets worse over time. Well, why and how it fits into a Docker and Proxmox workflow, just as an example, and how to set it up in a way that stays clean instead of becoming yet another project. Now, this was going to be a video of just comparing a whole bunch of things like Uptime Kuma, Homepage, Dashi, Homer, like a whole bunch of different dashboards, but I figured why not split these up into their own videos instead of just going through a list of all of them and break them all up separately. So today we're starting with a big one, which is Homepage. And then in the next video, I'll walk you through my actual config, how everything works in the background, and see kind of how all this chaos comes together. So first things first, what is Homepage? And a lot of people are going to know what it is. It's pretty popular, but we'll also cover what it isn't. So it's a self-hosted application dashboard, basically a start page for your home lab. The important bits for home lab use: it's fast and lightweight, it's configured with simple YAML files, easy to back up, version control, all that stuff. It supports a ton of integration and widgets, so you can show real data, not just icons, and it can even auto-discover services from Docker labels if you want it to scale with your stack. And here's what it's not. So it's not a full monitoring platform like Prometheus and Grafana. It's not a replacement for your orchestrator like Portainer, Kubernetes, etc. Think of it as your front door, the place that you land before you jump into anything else. And now the real home lab problem, I should say, that Homepage solves. Here's kind of the big shift that happens in every lab, and I'm talking from my personal experience. So the beginning is, how do I host this thing? That's at the very beginning, but then once you have a real setup, the challenge becomes, where do I put that service? Is it up? What's it running on? Which URL did I expose? And why does this one feel slow today? And the more services that you run, the more things you experiment with, the more your home lab turns into this, pile of bookmarks, IP addresses, ports, notes, and that one doc that you swore you would keep updated, which for me is like 2024 at some point. But Homepage solves this in a very practical way. One landing page for everything. So group the way that you actually think your home lab should be laid out: storage, infrastructure, media, security, dev tools, and at-a-glance visibility. So it's not full-blown observability, but the stuff that you care about daily. So kind of a much nicer bookmarks section. It'll tell you what's down, what needs attention, and it's also going to be a workflow that scales. So you can keep it simple and just add entries in YAML, or if you're spinning up containers constantly, you can label services, let Homepage populate your dashboard automatically. Now, let's talk about an actual practical application with a home lab. So why this matters in a real home lab. And this is where the HL15 Beast is the perfect example of why Homepage becomes so useful. Because when you've got a server like the Beast, you have 15 HDD bays plus 8 SSD bays, big cooling headroom, room for serious boards like EATX and expansion, and you don't run, just a couple of apps anymore. And you end up with a box that becomes the center of gravity for your entire lab. And in a realistic setup, that might look like 15 HDDs as your bulk storage pool for backups, media, NVR retention, general NAS duties, and the 8 SSD bays on the other hand as your fast tier. So VM storage, container volumes, databases, caching, maybe a ZFS special VDEV, depending on how you build it out. Then there's things like Proxmox hosting, so core infrastructure, DNS, reverse proxy, different types of auth, media services, Jellyfin, Plex, downloaders, indexers, and there's a whole slew of other things that you can put onto the Beast and have it do, like Frigate, NVR, SIEM for security, observability. So that kind of goes hand in hand with something like homepage for Grafana, Prometheus, things like that. Then you have observability, so things like Grafana, uptime checks, alerting, dev tools, so Git, Git, all those other things. And that's the moment your biggest challenge stops being, can the HL15 Beast run it? And it becomes, where is everything? What's healthy right now? What are my roommates? What are my family? What are they screaming about that's down at the moment? Because once the Beast is running the majority of your services, you can absolutely end up in that situation where the server's running great, the services are all up, but you're wasting time hunting down for the right UI, depending on what the issue is. But Homepage fixes that by becoming the front door to something like the HL15 Beast and everything that it hosts. Now, you open one page and immediately you've got your most used services grouped logically with status checks, key widgets that you actually care about day to day. So instead of the Beast runs everything, but I can't find anything because it can do so much, it becomes that the Beast runs everything. I've got a clean control panel for it. Now, let's take an example here of where Homepage sits in a Docker, Proxmox workflow, because it's pretty common in home labs. So I'd seen a bit where there was some confusion between if you run Portainer, do you need Homepage? Will you see any benefit? So Homepage sits alongside Portainer. It doesn't replace it. Portainer is where you manage your containers and stacks. Homepage is where you use and observe services. So a clean workflow looks like deploy stacks in Portainer or compose directly, add labels if you want for auto discovery. Homepage becomes the view that answers what services exist, where are they, and what's reachable. And for Proxmox heavy labs, Homepage becomes even more valuable because it can link your infrastructure layer, so Proxmox UI, Proxmox backup server, and then separate from Proxmox, but still on the server, IPM, iDRAC, monitoring, router, firewall, and if you're tired of bookmarking, it turns your entire lab into a single control plane page without needing to build a whole portal. At a very high level, and we'll cover this in the next video, you're going to deploy it as a Docker container. You're going to set up your widgets, your different YAML files to have it present the way that you'd like, add in your own personal flavor, your splash of color, all that stuff, and kind of make it your own. You can put it behind a reverse proxy for a little bit of added security, have it reachable outside of your LAN. But that is super high level. What we'll actually do is go into it in the next video there, make it its own dedicated thing instead of, making this a supremely long video that's going to cover both. So this will just be a little informational, and then next time will be our actual deep dive into it. So now some of you might be thinking, why Homepage is worth it? Why bother deploying it? So if you've got 3 services, you don't need Homepage. Yeah, maybe you do. You might like it, like that configuration. But if you have multiple hosts, a storage box like the HL15 Beast, running your workload, and a bunch of self-hosted tools that you rely on daily, Homepage becomes one of those, why didn't I do this sooner sort of things. It doesn't replace your monitoring. It doesn't replace your management. It just makes your lab usable at scale and a little more organized, which is something I have a lot of trouble with. That's Homepage. It's not a monitoring platform, not an orchestrator, but the missing front door that makes a messy home lab feel organized. So in the next video, we'll be doing a full layout. We'll be going over storage, integrating Proxmox PBS links, core services, status checks, all that fun stuff, and how you can actually get some of the most popular things up and running in your home lab and being able to view through Homepage. Now, if you want to see everything that we have on offer, head on over to store.45homelab.com, where you can see the HL15 Beast, the HL4, 8, 15, 2.0, all that good stuff. We also have financing available now in North America, so you can finance that over a longer period of time. And all of our socials and Homepage itself will be in the description down below. And with that, I'll see you in the next one, where we are going to take a deep dive on Homepage. See ya.